Well, this is it. Deuteronomy chapter 34, literally the final chapter in the life of Moses. And what an extraordinary life it has been. From the baby in the basket, now he is the man standing on a mountaintop, and below he can look down at 2 million people, and across he can see the promised land. And how it must have thrilled his heart to see the land flowing with milk and honey for himself. Just think of the life that he has lived, the many days of difficulty, the seasons of sorrow, the soaring moments of glorious triumph. Can you imagine what must have gone through Moses' mind as he stood on top of that mountain waiting for the next great adventure to begin? We don't hear much about Moses' family, but I've got to imagine that he was thinking back upon times perhaps with his children, with his wife, with all the people that he loved. I've got to imagine that he thought about Aaron and Miriam who had gone ahead of him on to glory before him. I've got to think that he must have considered he was moments away from meeting people that he had only heard of and read about. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. And now, forevermore, his name will be held alongside theirs as founding fathers of this great nation. We are not told what Moses thought, and we are not told exactly how his death occurred, but clearly his time had come. He was not lacking strength. Even in that last day, his eyes were not dim, his strength was not sapped, but his work had been completed. I imagine Moses, with a tear-streaked face, looking out across Canaan as the sun begins to set, his final glorious view at the end of a glorious life, and as he closes his eyes to sleep, he opens them shortly after to find that he is not truly dead, but is more alive than ever before. What a privilege we've had to walk this journey with him over many months and see him make his pilgrimage to end up in the heavenly promised land, a land flowing with much more than milk and honey, a land that has already been fought for, paid for, and won by the blood of the Lord Jesus Christ. Imagine the mysteries that Moses is about to discover, that he will have the great joy of knowing. Since then, no prophet has risen in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face, who did all these signs and wonders that the Lord sent him to do in Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all his officials, and to his whole land. For no one has ever shown the mighty power or performed the awesome deeds that Moses did in the sight of all Israel. It is a beautiful thing to say that the Lord knew Moses face to face. It's a way of saying that the communication between them was clear and direct and like friends talking to one another. And one day we will enjoy that same sort of relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ. There's also some mystery in this passage. The book of Jude, for example, is 1 chapter long, but Jude chapter 1 verse 9 says the following: "Even the archangel Michael, when he was disputing with the devil about the body of Moses, did not himself dare to condemn him for slander, but said, 'The Lord rebuke you.'" So there are huge, unseen spiritual things going on even here at the top of Mount Nebo in Moab. We read that the devil wanted the body of Moses, but the archangel Michael would not let him have it and rebuked him in the Lord's name. Now, what on earth the devil wanted the body of Moses for is impossible to know because we are not told directly. However, I think, knowing our human tendency to worship all the wrong things, we see that throughout the Bible and throughout our world, I think that the devil would have wanted a big thing made out of the burial place of Moses so that people would come from miles around and worship Moses rather than the God of Moses, that they would make a big deal out of the corpse of Moses rather than the king of Moses. And so it is so interesting to note in verse 6 that he was buried in Moab, but to this day, no one knows where his grave is. That, it seems, was the Lord's will. Extraordinary things were accomplished through Moses, but truly not by Moses, by God. And all the way through the Pentateuch, God has been the star of the show, and we should never lose sight of that fact. One day, when Christ returns, that little patch of land somewhere in Moab will shift, and the ancient remains of Moses will be brought forth and made new. And you and I will witness that day when this whole earthly story is wrapped up and completed, and then all things are made new, and we will look down and see a vast multitude greater than any that Moses saw on earth. We will look up and see a promised land greater than any that Moses saw on earth. We will see the fulfillment of every promise and every prophecy, and the whole world will be made new. All that we've seen in the books of Moses has been utterly epic so far. But, my friend, it pales in comparison to what Christ has accomplished. Some brilliant things have happened in the Bible, but the best is yet to come.